So, what's with the candle?
Don't you recognize it?
Should I recognize it?
It's the unity candle from our wedding.
Yeah, I mean, of course I recognized it. Was just kidding.
It's a symbol of our two lives melting into one big pillar of happiness. We were actually supposed to light it every year on our anniversary to represent that our lives were growing more and more into a state of marital bliss.
That's a really lot of responsibility for a candle.
It's a really big candle.
Let's do this. Okay, well, I just need to state for the record, I knew what the candle was.
I knew you knew.
That's the kind of thing husbands get in big trouble for. But yeah, we always try to have a little fun with our skits. Well, we're going to jump into our show and tell, and we're going to skip the garden photos this time because we're going to spend a little bit more time wrapping up our really big pond and waterfall project that we've been telling you about. So hopefully you enjoy seeing this as much as we enjoy showing it off. I'm going to show you one I think we showed you a couple episodes ago. This is the before. It's just a reminder of what we started with. So this hillside was just absolutely full of green things. We kept the dogwood tree and all the other green within a certain area here on the hillside around where the previous pond and waterfall went away. So we already had kind of shown you how we did that and got rid of a lot of that and part of what we constructed. And here we are nearing the finishing stages. This is plants and bags of mulch at the top of the project waiting to be staged. And then here's Hillary helping stage things and maybe water things, make sure that they, I mean, it was hot that day. So
hot,
we were trying to make sure that things in pots didn't overheat before we got a chance to get them in the ground. And then here's an example of one of the things we had put this giant rock in as a seeding rock on the lower left part of the project. And we put, I always like to say agastacia because I think it sounds better than agastache. Makes me aghast to hear people pronounce it that way. But
I think people just make up ways to say stuff just so they can be like in the cool club.
Right.
You know.
But anyway, so that's what's around that rock. And I'm not going to go through all the plants, but we've got a mix of abelia and butterfly bush and spirea and weigela and some salvia and coneflowers, a lot of different things. There's even a dwarf crepe myrtle at the very top that won't get much bigger than probably 3 foot by 3 foot. So a mix of different colors and different things. And then here's a view of the other side on the right. Same types of flowers. There's some catnip there at the bottom by the red coneflowers.
But really we had to stick within the boundaries though, because
yes,
we needed full sun.
Full sun.
They wanted perennials, which would come back every year.
Right.
And deer resistant. That was the big tag. If it did not say deer resistant, we're like, we are not buying deer food.
No, because this house is on 9 acres. Much of it is wooded and much of the neighbor's property is wooded and deer come and go all the time. So they really wanted to make sure that they weren't going to pay to have stuff just get chomped up and go
we
away.
saw those beautiful deer. They were so pretty. They came up.
They weren't afraid
pretty
either.
Close to us.
Yeah, they came and watched us work one day. It
like,
was
oh, yum.
Kind of funny.
What's on the menu? Like nothing for you.
No, this is not for you.
Go back in the woods and eat something.
Move along. So here's a picture that kind of shows off the curve of the manufactured stone wall that we put at the bottom and how the waterfall starts with a big 6 foot wide consistent weir of waterfall at the top and then breaks into separate little waterfall areas. Here's another shot from the front to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of the overall project. And there's a close-up of the waterfall weir. It's somewhat challenging to get something that consistent and that wide. And we were feeling pretty good about how we pulled that off, and the customer was really, really, really happy with it.
Yeah, a lot of give me that 4-foot level, please.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we put some work into it to make sure that all of it's kind of like painting. You know, they say when you're painting a room, painting is actually the easiest part. It's all the prep work and getting everything ready. And it's kind of similar with this too. You really have to know how to put things together, how to shape the earth, how to put in underlayment and then liner, and then attach the liner to things so that it won't leak, but the underneath has to be level in certain places, and then you build walls that have to support the rocks that have to be level. And depending on how you build it, everything doesn't have to be level, but you know, to know when that's important and to be able to pull it off, there's a lot to it. So we were really, really, really happy with how it finished up. We shown you, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but there was a giant pile of dirt from having dug the pond out and leveled out for the waterfalls. And we weren't sure what we were going to do with all that. We figured it out, and you can see our helpers there kind of finishing getting rid of that. We used a machine for a lot of that, but also to grade that out so that it looked attractive. And then here's kind of a finished picture of the whole project. So you can kind of make out steps way on the right side and then steps just to the left of the waterfall feature. And in between that was, if you didn't see that whole big thing before, all of that was green, monkey grass and all kinds of stuff that had to go away. And this is what we ended up with. They decided they wanted to just leave the right side kind of clean and simple for now and think about if they want to put anything else over there, which made sense to us, and we were fine with it. And then that stone pathway on the near edge of the project, the kind of chestnut brown that's all up in there in that whole area where the project is, that is shredded pine mulch. And so that pathway is new around the whole bottom end that goes from one staircase to the other. And then here we see this is the area where the tan area is wheat straw, which is what you put down over grass seed and fertilizer, which we did after we regraded all of that, because the machine that we brought materials in and out and all around, we just tore that up. Something
So
fierce. I wish I had a better picture of how bad we tore it up.
Yeah.
But
I'm kind of glad I can't remember.
we graded it all back out and put the seed down. And now here's one of my favorite pictures, and I'm thankful that Hillary let me include this.
It's just me just lounging on the job. I just, just floating around.
Is this pond good for swimming?
Is it good? It was good.
We didn't make it for swimming, obviously, but the homeowner wanted lights, and so we put lights in the bottom, but the lights had to sit on the bottom and have a little bit of gravel covering them to make them stay in place and have them be in the right area and blah, blah, blah. And it's not easy to do without getting in the pond. And this pond is deeper than most of the ponds that we build. And I said, well, I'll do it. And Hillary said, no, I want to do it.
I'll do it.
I said, okay. So she jumped in her work clothes, and she's holding on to that waterfall rock on the edge there while she adjusts a light in the bottom. And then this next picture kind of gives a little bit of the scale of the project. I think some of our pictures make the whole waterfall area look a little smaller than it is, and this gives you a little better idea.
Yeah. And you know what? I was thinking, like, most of the ponds that we do are not as deep, and you just bend over and you just do whatever you need to do. And this one, I felt like I was back in the Dead Sea again. I couldn't get to the bottom of that thing. I just kept bouncing right back up, and we were like, let's not think about the fact that it's probably my body mass index, a little bit of extra
I'm really not sure why we're talking about that.
Layer of insulation here.
I'm also pretty sure you're not a witch, so I'm not sure why you floated, but
yeah, I was pushing those rocks, trying to keep myself down to do that, and I thought this should not be this hard. I did not volunteer for something difficult. I thought it was something fun.
Well,
it was funny.
It was fun. The whole project was fun.
Yeah. And I really did love being in the pond. It was great.
It was a lot of work, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Well, here are the guys that did most of the work with us. There were a few other guys that came on a day here and there, but this is Hillary with Irvin and Francisco. And just great guys and super hard workers. And then here's a picture of me with them as well. And they, of course, they were taking lots of pictures and videos when we got to the end of it too. Hillary said, let's get a selfie. I said, well, a selfie won't really show off the waterfall. So we did the individual pictures. And then she said, no, we're doing a selfie. So, so there's the selfie. And then there's one more. I just want to show a video.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first time I've ever done this, but I thought ahead enough to take a video of the before, planning in my head to take a video of the after and put them together. So
all right.
I promise this is the last that we'll show of this project, and we'll move on for those of you
I
that
don't know. Don't make promises you can't keep.
if you're bored with it. But we sure, this was a big deal for us. So let's go ahead and play that. And it shows the waterfall at the top. This again is the before, when I told you there was just green everywhere. You couldn't even hardly see the waterfall coming down the hill because it was so overgrown. Then it goes, of course, into the pond, which looks like a decent sized little pond, much smaller than the one we ended up with. Rocks on the downside, which is part of what we had to fix because the rocks kept shifting. That was a problem. And now we're transforming to the after. Unfortunately, the water wasn't clear, but of course, then you can see the detail in the bottom of the waterfall, how the water goes over this rock and that, and makes its way down. And you see the whole thing. So quite a change from small chaos to large, orderly, and beautiful.
Very beautiful. Yeah.
So it was a good time.
It was a really fun project to work on. It was, and especially too because we had such good help. Hard workers, they knew what they were doing.
It makes all the difference.
It was so fun. Yeah.
Well, we just celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary, and since we're doing before and afters, this is the after.
Yeah.
And the before.
Here, let's get together. Take our little. There's the before. I mean the after.
The before of 33 years ago on our wedding day.
Yeah.
June 6, 1992 in Owasso, Michigan. This is what the bride and groom look like. I'm not sure why my mouth is gaping open. Who knows why we do the things that we do. I actually had a little bit of hair on the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure you can get those glasses right now at VisionWorks. They might
probably come with an anti-glare coating, though.
They probably do.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. But yeah, we're going to be talking about weddings and marriage. We didn't do a whole lot for this anniversary because we're getting ready to do something big.
We're getting ready to go to another wedding. We have 5 kids. 4 of them are married, and not the youngest when I say the 5th one, but the one that hasn't been married yet is getting married at the end of this month. And we're getting ready to take a trip to Colorado to see our son Tim get married to his fiancee Tori.
Yeah,
and we're excited.
We're very excited. Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
So we thought in honor of our anniversary, in honor of their upcoming wedding, we would take a little bit of time and start talking about some specific things. I wish I could remember when you first came up with this idea.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. It was one of those, we always have those, when I write a book, it's going to be blah, blah, blah.
One of these days, you know how many conversations have started with that phrase
over
the
years.
One of these days when we can maybe have a marriage ministry, which I'm not saying we're gonna do that, but we thought about it a lot of times.
Yep.
And even wrote down some notes and some different things. And the title that I came up with was Sailing the 7 Seas, as in the letter C apostrophe S. Sailing the 7 Seas of a Successful Marriage. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. It's kind of fun to say.
But get it? Like seas, like SEAS, seas. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
In case they didn't get it.
And it's a little bit of a pun, I guess, but you're confusing me because it's not the water. It's it's a play on that, but it's 7 words that start with a C that are kind of our big 7 categories.
I just want to make sure they were with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Work.
Well, the first C shouldn't be a surprise because we've already talked about this a couple times on the podcast with regards to different things. In fact, we talked about it a little bit last week. It's communication.
Mm-hmm. I think we could talk about that every week.
We could easily talk about communication 7 times and probably still have new stuff to say.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a different word every each of this and the next 6 podcasts. We're going to cover the 7 C's of a successful marriage. But the first one, communication.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're going to try not to repeat too much of what we've said in previous episodes, but also to have it be specifically to marriage in ways that are specific, but in some ways it really could apply to a lot of other relationships too. So,
and this was something, I mean, I think whether you realize it or not, this is one of the first things you start with in your relationship. Can you communicate? Can you understand each other?
It's so important because if you can't get on the same page, you're going to struggle in your marriage no matter what. Right. You have to be able to relay information, and you have to be able to hear and understand information. And the hard part of that is a lot of times people struggle, and some people are very self-aware, but usually when you struggle with communication, you always think it's everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
And it might be.
What's wrong with everybody?
You might be in a relationship with someone who's not very good at communication, and you are better at it. But usually each of us have some things that we can improve on. Mm-hmm. So I think the catalyst for communication, the topic, and even communication in marriage for me and for us, it's a story, excuse me, that I think I have told before on the podcast. And I think I told it to you early in our marriage, but it's the fact that I watched my mother and father who had a great marriage. My mom unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, but wonderful people, and they had a great marriage, and nobody's perfect, but I watched them do a lot of things really well. And so when I heard this story, it really stuck with me that I guess early in their marriage, my father, who had always done really well in school, made this illustration to my mother. She would expect things from him that he didn't realize she was expecting.
Right.
And he would get frustrated, and he's like, well, you didn't tell me. And she's like, well, you should know. And he would get frustrated, and he would say, Carol, the only class I ever failed in school was mind reading, which of course was not a class, but that was his kind of smart aleck way to say, look, if you want me to know something, you have to tell me. And when I told it to you, I said, look, I'm not a mind reader, but I'm also, I don't know why it's like this, but I think it's pretty common in society that someone told me once it comes from romance novels, that the men in romance novels always do the right thing, say the right thing. They always know everything.
Yep, they're anticipating
that they're supposed
to
do. And then women think that men in real life are like that. We are not. And it's not because we're stupid. It's just because that's an unrealistic expectation. And so if you want me to know something, you have to tell me, even if you think it's obvious. And I mean, sometimes you may tell me stuff and I'll be like, yeah, I know. But if you want to make sure I know, you got to tell me, because there's a good chance I don't know.
And I still remember when we were dating and we had this talk, and you just, I don't know, maybe we'd already gotten into some kind of a fight or.
Oh, we never did that.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
More than 10 or 12 times a day.
Melting into happiness. But I remember you telling me, and you said, hey, you know that game that sometimes girls play where you're thinking one thing, but you're going to do another, but I'm supposed to know that it actually means that. And you just said, I've already played that game, and I know that I'm not good at it.
Right.
I'm never going to win that game. And so, like you said, if you want me to know something, you have to tell me. And then you did say, but if you tell me, I'll do everything that I can to try to line up with that, or, not
Yeah.
like you're just going to do everything I say, but that
I
you
love
would,
you, and I want us to have
yeah,
a good marriage and to be successful and to
Yep.
help each other, not frustrate each other.
that was like mind blowing for me.
Yeah.
I was like, "Huh, what?" Because I knew how to play the games. Like, what were all those rom-coms for, if not to teach me how to have a relationship?
That's all about money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but for you to say those words out loud, it just suddenly opened up a whole new idea for me, that if I would tell you what I needed, you would do something about it.
Yeah.
And then guess what? That put some of the responsibility back on me. Like, I had to actually be responsible for how I felt, what I was thinking. What do I actually want? What do I need? I thought, gosh, I don't know. I'll have to think. I was easier just to be kind of huffy and mad and, nothing, never mind.
Right.
All the lines. It really was a moment in my life that shifted so much. It was amazing.
Well, and I think you're doing a great job of explaining it. But the one example that popped into my head was, I feel like a lot of women will do this or something similar to this, where the man will say, "Oh, your birthday's coming up. Well, what do you want for your birthday?" She's like, "Oh, no, don't get me anything. It's fine." And then when the birthday comes around and he doesn't get her anything, she's like, and she can't say why she's mad, because she knows she told him not to get him, but she's telling her girlfriend, he didn't give me anything for my birthday. It's my birthday. Can you believe it? He didn't give me anything for my birthday. Well, you told him not to get you anything for your birthday. What do you think? We don't know.
Yeah. No, it's...
Plus, if I get something without knowing what you want, it's probably going to be wrong anyway. So just throw me a bone. What is so hard about that?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a really unconventional way of being in a relationship, where you actually are responsible to say what you mean,
Yeah,
and what you feel and what you think, so that the other person has an opportunity to respond appropriately.
yeah.
It's amazing. We could just stop right here. Say what you mean
Right.
what you say, and listen. Sorry, I think my candle's making my nose tickle. And mean what you say. And so I will tell you, this truly changed me as a person, because I think I just started kind of using it in all my relationships. And I just realized, it's really not fair to just expect other people will know you. They will, anticipate what you're thinking, what you want, what you need. If you want those needs to be met, you have to know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you would say, "Hey, it's your birthday. What would you like to do?" I actually would have to think about, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Why, what do I want? And there's nothing wrong with how should I expect you to know what I want if I can't even figure it out myself?
Yeah.
So
Good
anyway.
point. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I had another example, but I don't actually think we need it. But I do want to make sure and say this part.
Okay.
It's really important that we're on the same page and that we are actually communicating, not just talking in the same room. I just came up with that when I was writing the notes.
Yeah.
And I like it.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're communicating, not just talking in the same room. Because talking in the same room, if you're not actually communicating, is kind of pointless, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as we go through these, we're going to go through, we've got 6 points here that we're going to go through. And we're going to discuss them as if these conversations always happen in person, in the same room. We understand that you oftentimes, especially nowadays, are going to communicate with your significant other over the phone because you're not in the same place at the same time all the time. You can easily apply these to this. There are a couple things at one point later I'm going to tell you put your phone down. Well, that doesn't work
not
if
if
you're
you're talking to them.
If you're talking to each other on the phone. I think you're smart enough to understand that. But but these are written with the idea in mind that you're in person, and you can adapt it from there.
Yeah.
But so how
Can
do
I
you
say something about that too, though?
Sure.
Because if you are on the phone, try to be, quote, in the same room with them.
Right.
Take care of your surroundings. Make sure that you're not in a place where you truly can't focus.
Yeah.
Don't be doing this while you're in line at the grocery store. Get a place where you actually, if you have to have the conversation on the phone, try to be, quote, in the same room.
As much as possible. And these guidelines are mostly for more serious conversations. But even when it comes to the little stuff, if you aren't really listening and you're not really remembering what you even talked about, it's going to come back and bite you eventually. And so I said, make sure that you're actually communicating and not just talking in the same room. How do you know that you're actually communicating? So here are 6 points that we want to talk about that I think will be really helpful. The first one is say what you mean and mean what you say. And that kind of builds off what we were talking about earlier about with the birth. I don't want anything for my birth. Don't do that.
Be kind.
Yeah, be kind. So to clarify, when we say what you mean and mean what you say, it doesn't mean that you have no filter. One of the shows that we like to watch had a big thing about that. One episode recently where one of the characters didn't have much of a filter, and the other character that was trying to become friends with them kept telling them filter. Yeah. So when I say what you mean and mean what you say, it doesn't mean that you say every mean thing that pops into your head when you're frustrated with your significant other. Mm-hmm. Be kind. Also, no talking in code. So like the birthday thing, but also you can fill in the blanks here. But if you find yourself saying, when I said, fill in the blank, I thought you knew that I obviously meant, fill in the blank with something different. Mm-hmm. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's not fair.
No, that's not fair. Also, be specific. I mean, as much as possible. When you just throw out really, really broad things and you're not specific, that's just like fertilizer for misunderstandings. And don't do that.
And you know what I've found too is that sometimes if I would get angry, I wouldn't even know enough to be specific. Sometimes it takes like me removing myself and even just saying, I actually can't talk about this right now. And then I would have to get away and maybe just spend some time with the Lord to pray through it, because sometimes I don't actually know why I'm so angry. And so I would take some time, step back, kind of, I don't know if we said this already, but I would just ask myself, why am I so angry? And then I would try to get to that. And I think, okay, well, why did that make you so angry? Kind of get to that level. I always like to say, why is like a shovel. Keep using that why and keep digging down deeper until you get to the real. Like, okay, this made me mad, but normally that doesn't make me mad. Why did that make me mad?
Yeah.
Go deeper down. Why did that make you mad? Go down deeper down. Why did that make you mad?
Right.
And then finally be like, oh, okay, now I know why I'm really mad. Mm-hmm. But now you can be specific. So sometimes you have to take that step back and just to say, I don't know why. I'm just mad. So get away.
Yeah.
Find out why. Pray through it, and then come back, because then you know what you need a little bit better then.
Right.
So.
Right. So related to that, but slightly different, is if you need to reduce things down to simplest terms. In other words, if I'm trying to tell Hillary something and she isn't really, I realize that she's not really understanding it. It may be frustrating to me because I feel like she has no reason not to understand what I'm telling her. But when I do realize that that's what's happening, sometimes I'll back it up a little bit and go, okay, I thought you understood everything up to this level. Let me go back down to the foundations of what I'm talking about and start over with the most simple terms this is what I'm talking about, and this is why I feel a certain way, and this is what I'm trying to communicate to you and build it back up. And we're going to talk about listening here next, but then hopefully you get some feedback and find, oh, okay, now she's with me. Okay, now we can build on that with a deeper conversation that has a good foundation. That you got to start on the same page. You can't. When you think you're starting on the same page and you're not going to end up on the same page. So,
yeah, and I think even going back further, when we had kids in the house, and we would be spending most of our day apart. Sometimes when we would jump into a conversation, I would forget you didn't know the foundation of anything I was talking about. Like maybe I'd had all these experiences during the day, or with the kids, or with a coworker, and then you come in, and you'd be lost. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to back up this. I got to realize he doesn't know all the things that have happened. He doesn't know all the things that I'm already angry about, or
right.
So yeah, backing up and making sure everybody's on that same foundation. That's important.
Yep. Say what you mean what you say. You want to take number 2?
Sure. Yeah. Number 2 is just called actually listen. That is difficult. I think it gets even more difficult as our life gets more wrapped up in our technology and our devices. Right. We would go so far as to, we have on our notes, it says delete distractions, phones, TV, tablets, etc., turned off. If we knew we really wanted to have a conversation and that it might get heated, we would actually either shut the doors and tell the kids, you cannot come in this room.
Right. And
then there were a few that we thought, this may get so bad. We're going away. And we would leave. And the kids were older, but still, they don't even know. Like, don't even knock on the door and ask if you can come in and get water. Like, right. just don't even knock this time. So we would tell the kids, hey, we're going to be gone for a little bit. We'll be back. We would literally go in the car, drive to the park, shut off our phones, and basically lock ourselves in the car. We're like, okay, no distractions, no phones, no kids, no TV. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. We're going to talk. And that's important.
Yep.
Because those distractions, they will come. They will.
Well, and I think it's even worse nowadays because there are many more things that can distract you, and people in general, I think, are a little more ADD. I think, and I don't have scientific proof of this, but I kind of have a theory that the smartphones and the social media and the games and all the things that you carry with you everywhere you go. I noticed sometimes when, we were going shopping to get some clothes for this trip coming up, and at one point you were in the fitting room and I was waiting for you to come out and, hey, do you like this? I can't decide, blah, blah, blah. So we're doing that. And, there are other people that, like, if they're not actively doing something, anything, even if they're still standing up, they just immediately pull out their phone, and they can't live life without having some kind of stimulus at every moment of every day, which is a whole nother rabbit trail that we could go down. But I think that's sad. So I try to be off my phone a lot because it helps me to be off my phone when I really need to be off my phone.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
When you're listening, think about what your mate is saying and make sure that you understand. And so when I say think about what they're saying, that's these two kind of go together. Don't be thinking about your next comment.
Yeah.
So in other words,
your rebuttal. Oh, yeah. I know what I'm going to say to that.
Right. The point of being in a conversation is not to win the conversation or win the argument. And yes, I did say win the conversation because there are people who are so competitive, and I used to be one of them, that anytime we were having a conversation, even if it wasn't an argument, I felt like I had to make sure that by the end of it, she knew that I was more right, or that we were doing the thing I wanted to do, or whatever. I mean,
We were both super competitive.
We were both super immature too. But
what? Let's get that photo back up there. Those kids, they weren't immature.
They were
completely immature.
Clueless.
They're so cute.
So, when the other person's talking, don't be thinking about what you're going to say and how you're going to deconstruct their argument and how you're going to win the conversation. Just listen to what they're saying. And part of that is you may think you know what they're saying or they're going to say. And if you actually listen to the full statement, by the time you get to the end of it, they might actually be saying something else. They might actually be trying to make a different point. They may actually have a different observation that you hadn't thought of, that's valuable information that you don't know if you don't truly listen.
Yeah. And I think too that you're right. There's so many times when you think you already know what they're going to say, what their point is, what they're thinking. You think you are a mind reader, and you're not. And I think also too, not that you're a mind reader, but to listen for the heart of it.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we are really clumsy at what we say and how we say it. But if you're trying to listen for the heart of that person, then sometimes you can even ask better questions.
Right.
Because it's, like I said, sometimes I would have to go away and pray and be like, why am I so mad? What is going on? But you might not even know why you're so angry. And maybe your spouse can ask you questions like, well, why is this making you so mad? How did that make you feel? Why is, help each other with that shovel, why?
Right.
Why are you angry? Why does that make you angry? Why does that, just do some digging so that you can get to the bottom.
Yeah. And so to ask specific, respectful, clarifying questions is really good and really important. And you can't do that if you're not listening, because you don't, I've done that before. Ask a question or make a comment and you just look at me and you're like, what? And I realize that I'm trying to get a point in, or a question, or why would you, and it's not even like related to what you just said, but I don't know that because I wasn't listening to what you just said. I was just trying to figure out how to win the conversation. So, I just realized too, another thing that's really important to us that we did not really talk, I don't think we've ever talked about on the podcast, and that could be a whole bigger conversation that we don't need to jump into right now, but early in our, I think even before we got married, I had been divorced and your parents had been divorced. And we just both agreed that divorce is not an option. And we're not even going to really discuss it. We're not going to joke about it. And every once in a great while, in an attempt to be funny, I would forget that and say something. And she's like, nope.
It's a rule.
It's not funny. We're not going there. So our thing is, we're not getting divorced, and neither one of us wants to be miserable. So our goal is to make this relationship as good as possible.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad in our society today that so many people do get divorced. I think the stats are still somewhere around 50% of marriages end in divorce. And I think as long as you think that's an option, when crap gets hard, people bail. And if the conversations are hard and the misunderstandings are frustrating and you're like, I don't even know what this person's talking about, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we could have been divorced at least 18 or 20 times if we would have just said, if this is hard, we're not doing it.
Right.
So I'm going to be your football coach right now. Suck it up, Buttercup. I mean, relationships are hard. Don't use that as an easy out. Do the work. I mean, if something brought you together and made you think that you wanted to be together, so do the work and figure it out. And so all of these points that we're trying to make go along with that basic premise. Like, of course, you're going to stay together, knuckleheads. Figure out how to actually have good conversations and communicate with each other. It's really important.
I had kind of forgotten that because it's been so long. But you're right. We made a promise out loud together, and we said Divorce is never an option.
Right.
We are in this till someone dies.
Mm-hmm.
And no, no killing each other.
No,
So,
that's right. Divorce is not an option, and neither is murder.
Yeah. But what a safety net. Like, when you really believe that, when you really believe that the other person is committed forever, you actually have more freedom to dive into those hard conversations and to communicate well, because there's safety. It's like, I can share with you how I really feel. I can tell you hard things because I know we've committed. There's no quitting.
Right.
No one's quitting. You're not quitting on me. I'm not quitting on you. We're a safe place.
Yeah.
And that there's so much beauty and freedom in that.
Absolutely.
And I do think it's like anything. If you think, well, if it gets really hard, I'm just out, then there's no incentive to plow through the hard work and do the communicating.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you know what? I'm just done. I'm done.
Yeah. And I've been through a divorce, and I don't want this to get super awkward, but divorces suck. They are hard and they are painful, and there's a lot of collateral damage in divorce, especially if you have children, which I did have a son from my first marriage. And so, I'm thrilled to be with Hillary, and we have 33 years of marriage, which has been mostly really, really good. And we've worked through the hard things. But I can tell you that working through the hard things is worth it. Mm-hmm. You picked this person for a reason. They picked you, and you both said yes. And so figure it out. Figure it out. The hard work that you have to go through to figure it out is better than the hard work of divorce. I promise you. And the aftermath of divorce. I promise you. Now, somebody's going to say, well, what about abuse and all of that? And we're not trying to get into that. We're assuming that these are the relationships we're addressing are relationships where people want to give up because they grow out of love, or I don't know, I'm just not into it anymore, or I think I found someone else I'm more attracted to. Well, this episode's not about that, but don't go spending time with someone that you find attractive. Just say, if I find someone else attractive, they're automatically on the list of people I don't hang out with, because guess what? I'm 100% committed to my spouse, and divorce is not an option, and neither is an affair. So I'm done with them, because for some people at some points, that temptation is more than they can handle. So be a grown up and cross them off your list, and just don't go there. Mm-hmm. And work on the relationship you're in. So, you know what I realized? This is all really good, and I think sometimes we're at our best when we have notes, but we wing it. We've added a few things in, and I'm looking at our timer, and I think we need to probably wrap this up. So probably, who knows how many episodes this is going to be?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do a part 2 on
communication.
Part 1.
Yeah,
so that make it 1A and 1B, because we can't do part 2 because I don't know. We'll have to. I don't know. We're gonna have to go to the park and talk about it.
The 7 C's, sailing the 7 C's of successful marriage, are going to take more than 7 episodes, but that's okay.
Believe that.
Because I always feel a little weird. One of the things that was drilled into me as a kid is to not brag on yourself, but we always pray that God will help us in these podcasts, and that he'll give us good information. And I feel like he's given us good information to share with other people, and revealed some good things to us in our marriage that have worked for us, and that we know can and will work for other people. And so I'm excited to share them, but we're not trying to be Joe Rogan and have 3-hour podcasts. So we could end with the phrase that we always say to each other. And you probably don't. We say a lot of phrases.
Yeah. So I'll tell you which one, just so you don't say the wrong one. I'll tell you. Let me tell you what you're thinking.
Okay. Right now. There we go.
We always say, "I'm not perfect, and you're not perfect, but we're
perfect together."
Yeah. perfect together, perfect for each other.
Perfect for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you look at that wedding picture from 33 years ago, and we have said so many times, wow, I am not the same person I was 33 years ago. You are not the same person you were 33 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like two people got married and then changed into different people, and yeah, but along the way we have learned some really hard fought lessons.
We have.
So, yeah.
And they're worth fighting through
They are.
together.
Yeah.
We fight together, not against each other most of the time.
Most of the time. Because we have this candle. No.
That's mostly in the attic.
Yeah. Because we have the Lord.
Yeah.
And he has graciously helped us throughout the years. And
Yeah.
we have good examples and good parents and good friends. It definitely takes a lot of people. So,
It does.
all right.
It
Wrap
does.
us up.
Well,
Take
look,
us home.
we didn't think we were going to go exactly where we went, but that's okay. I think this has been a good episode, and we're thankful that you joined us. We got to start talking about communication within a marriage and how to make sure you're actually communicating and not just talking in the same room. We appreciate the time that you've spent with us. We know it's valuable. We hope that you'll come back and join us again next week when we continue to talk about communication in a marriage. And God bless. Have a great week.
See ya.